and today we master What's My Age Again. Let's do this.
That's about the time she walked away from me. Nobody likes you when you're 23. And I still wanna lose my TV shows. What the hell is ABB? My friends say I should act my age. What's my age again? What's my age again?
Yeah, today's the mastering episode of our series, the last episode of our series, but make sure you stick to the end, because in the end, I'm going to give you some really cool automation tips that take your song to the next level and took this song to the next level. So make sure you stick all the way to the end, but let's start with the mastering, because it's such a fun process, because now you've done it, right? You've done it. You recorded the song, you performed it, mixed the hell out of it, and now it's just time to give the chef's kiss on top of your cake. So let's do this. So mastering is really a process of listening to your references and trying to get as close as possible to the song you're trying to copy or to the song you're trying to reference. You see, even when you're doing an original song, you probably have references. You probably have other songs in the same style that you kind of admire, that you wish that your song sounded like that. You're always going to have a reference, right? So it's very important that you're not afraid and you drag in your references to Ableton Live. As you can see, I have my reference here, which is What's My Age Again, the original one. And it was a grueling process of listening to the song, messing around with my plugins here in my master, listening to the song, messing around, listening to the song, messing around. And this is what I got. This chain here, it's not too crazy, right? Because this song is beautiful in its simplicity. So I try to keep that mindset of simplicity across this whole process. But let me show you what I did. The first step is the utility plugin, but this is for a little automation trick for the end of the video. Make sure you stick around, as I said before. First of all, before I start actually, let's hear the song with and without the mastering.
Nobody likes you when you're 23. And I still wanna lose my TV shows. What the hell is
And now with the mastering.
away from me? Nobody likes you when you're 23. And I still wanna lose my TV.
Volume goes up, which is unfair, but it is one of the objectives of mastering is get the volume up the way that it has to be for a release, right? For being able to compete on Spotify and all that stuff. But yeah, let's go plugin by plugin and see what's going on here. The first thing that I did is the famous Smiley curve on channel EQ. I do this pretty much on every mastering that I have. This just does something sweet, which is boost a little bit of the lows and boost a little bit of the highs. And most masters actually do this because lows and highs. So Smiley curve, let's hear without.
Nobody likes you when
And now with.
Nobody likes you when you're 23.
You see, it's just a touch. It's just a touch. Next step, glue compressor. You gotta glue your masters, right? And this compressor is trying to kind of work like an SSL compressor. I actually have a physical SSL compressor here at home now, and I didn't use it for the song. I was loyal to my idea of using only Ableton Live plugins. So I used the closest thing to an SSL, and I think this original song was either done on an SSL or an API, but I don't know. I have no idea. I tried to get the closest thing that I could. It was the SSL simulation, the glue compressor. This is it. Without.
Nobody likes you when you're 23.
And now with.
Nobody likes you when you're 23.
You see, this is a rock song, so the compression can be quite aggressive for this stage. As you see, I'm leaving the attack slow. Always leave the attack slow on your masters because you don't want to crush your transients, right? You want to let your song breathe. And the release is a game. Usually it's going to be a little bit slower for a master, but you're going to have to play around with it. And when your head starts bouncing, it's because your compression is working, right? Your song has to be bouncing in a good way. It can't be just a blob, and it can't be too quiet and too not aggressive. It has to bounce just in the right way. And for a rock song, usually I leave the ratio on 4. Dry wet's 100%. And the trick here, you see, I have another utility here, and that's because if I take it out, everything's going to be really loud. Just check it out.
Nobody likes you when
And that's because I'm soft clipping glue compressor, as I did with my drums. I'm soft clipping here, because as you remember, as I said in the drums video, soft clipping and hard clipping thicken up your track quite a bit because it's cutting out the transients and making everything get closer together, get squashed together. But it's done in a very nice way and different from compression, because compression lowers volumes, clipping clips volumes. It cuts them down. And that gives an artifact that's somewhat pleasing sometimes, and also brings all of the rest of your content up. So it thickens everything up, but you have to do this tastefully, right? So that's why I'm keeping it on soft here, because you can turn it off and it's gonna be hard and it's gonna be red, the little blinking light. So I thought, no, let's keep it soft. This song is not that aggressive. Let's keep it soft. But soft clipping glue compressor is a great trick if you don't have another clipping plugin at all. You can use this in Ableton Live, but it's gonna raise your volume quite a lot because you don't have another gain stage after you clip it with the makeup here. So the trick is to group your glue compressor, as I'm doing here, with an utility, and then you can turn your gain down on that utility. That way you don't have such a volume difference when you turn this on and off. So check this out. Without that volume difference, you can really hear if you like what you're doing or not, because you're not biased by just having louder volume, right? Pretty cool trick. Use utility as a gain knob wherever you want. Next step, more EQ, and this time I'm doing special EQ, because it's mid-side EQ, actually. EQ8, although it looks quite simple in Ableton Live, it is very powerful. So let's first hear the before and after. So I'm doing mid-side EQ. What's mid-side EQ? It's basically EQing the middle of your track separately from the sides of your track. And that's very powerful for mastering, because that way you can guarantee the bass content of your track, for example, is going to be in the center. You can guarantee that the high content of your track is going to spread more to the sides. You can guarantee that the vocals are going to be more present in the center. You can guarantee a bunch of stuff. And I did some very basic curves here, but I'll show you guys how this works. In EQ8, you have this mode here. Stereo is the usual mode. That's just EQ things normally. Left and right, you can EQ left separately from right. And M&S is not a supermarket, not a grocery store. It's mid-side EQing. And right under here, EQ8, you can choose to edit the side, the S, the yellow curve, or the mid, the blue curve. So for the mid, I cut the very, very low end because the song doesn't have super low subs, but I boost a little bit around 50 here because that's where the low end of the song really resides. I boosted just a little bit in the center because that way the low end focuses in the center and really becomes a little bit more powerful. Then I moved on to the side. Then on the side, I'm cutting the low end a little bit more because I don't want that much low end on my sides. And I boosted a lot of the high end because when I heard my reference, I was listening to a lot of high end in the guitars on the sides and not so much on the vocals the same way. And I was like, should I just EQ my guitars again or should I do some mid-side? I'm like, just go with mid-side. And then I boosted the highs in the sides that not only made my guitars reach what they needed to reach, but they also spread them farther into the sides, which was really cool. It really separates the mix in a cool way and it creates a cool like image in general. So that's it. Really simple though. I didn't go too crazy. I didn't even cut my lows too much on the sides because I still wanted my sides to be thick, right? I want them to be skinny and boring. But yeah, really simple mid-side EQing inside Ableton Live. Then we're gonna go to the part where mastering actually gets fun. We're gonna make the song loud. And to do that, we have two things in Ableton Live. We have the limiter and we have the color limiter. And I use both, okay? But as my main limiter, I'm using the color limiter because it has a much nicer sound. It's much, much more pleasant. It's because limiter is just a clinical limiter. It limits. That's it. Doesn't add a sound. It doesn't do anything. It's just a limiter. It works. It's fine. But that's what it is. Color limiter adds color, as you can see on this knob here, and you can also add saturation, which I am just a little bit here. Let's hear it before and after. How much louder did that get? And you see, because I mixed my song quite conservatively with the faders here, it's not compressing too much. You see the little meter here is barely going up, so I'm really keeping the dynamics of my song there. I don't want to squash this song because it's a rock song, it's a punk song, it has to be punchy. It's from the 90s when things weren't that squashed as well, which I much prefer. So yeah, I'm just letting the limiter make sure that the song is louder and not clipping. And then I'm adding a little bit saturation, adding color, and I'm not sure which algorithm these two are using, if it's using the same from the saturator or for other plugins in Ableton, but it sounds really nice. This saturation sounds really nice, and this color knob sounds really nice. It does give that bit of a console sound to your mix, but a mix doesn't only go through a console, right? A mix also goes through tape, at least at that time in the 90s. So I added this preset right here, hot driven tape. And where you can find it, well, I'll show you, don't worry. If you go here to drive and color, and if you go to dynamic tube and you open the little famous arrow for the presets, you find hot driven tape here. And the preset was great. I didn't play with it at all, just the dry and wet. Let's hear it before and after. Nobody likes you when you're 23. And I still wanna lose back away from me. Nobody likes you when you're 23. See, it's just kissing the high end and making it more pleasant, more tape-like. You know, it's not as pointy and annoying as it was before. It's still there, present, but it's being mellowed out by this hot tape. And I'm gonna put it all the way up so you guys can hear how it sounds. You can really hear like it blowing up there, but yeah, as just a little bit of a touch there, it does some good things and gives you the tape sound that you need to pretend that you actually have tape. And lastly, I have another limiter, this time just a clean old limiter from Ableton Live. This has a ceiling of 0.3, which is usually where I leave it for YouTube. Sometimes for Spotify, I leave it at -1. It really depends on where you're releasing your song, but then I'm giving just a little bit of gain here. You see this? 0.7, just a little bit of gain to make sure my song is hitting the same loudness that What's My Age Again, the original one, has, and make sure that nothing clips. This limiter is gonna make sure that nothing hits 0. And it doesn't really change the sound at all. Nobody likes you when you're 23. See, it's just kissing my track. It's better to have multiple limiters, I think, as well, kissing your track than just squashing one limiter. It's better, trust me. And that's it for the mastering. But as I said, I'm gonna share some little cool automation secrets in the end of this track, because back in the day when people mix songs in big consoles, and I'm sure whoever mixed this song did this in the console, they used to do something called riding the faders. What's that? That's basically recording the mix, the track onto tape, riding the faders, raising volumes here and there, playing around with the knobs. The song becomes alive. Sometimes the vocals get a bit louder, a bit brighter. Sometimes the drums get a bit brighter, more aggressive, because the guy is riding the fader, feeling the song, and maybe the chorus needs to be more aggressive, so he puts in a compressor just there. He's riding the song. So that's very easy to do in Ableton Live, because that's automation, right? It's just squiggly lines. They're super easy to draw. So some of the tricks that I use for automation in Ableton Live to make my drums more aggressive in the chorus. You see, remember I had drum bass mixed very mildly here. You see, it's at 1.7. If I jump to a chorus, oh, it's at 11%. So my drums are much more driven, much more crunchy, much more transienty on the choruses, which makes sense. The drums have to be bigger in the chorus. Everything has to be bigger in the chorus. Also, I have utility, because as I said before, I like to automate on utility and not on the main faders here, so I still have control of my faders when I'm mixing. I have utility here, just making the drums louder in the choruses as well. Drums has to be louder in the choruses. As you see here in the last chorus, they get even louder, which makes sense. The last chorus is the biggest chorus always. So remember, you don't have to just automate volume. You can also automate plugins. So here, every chorus, my drums get more driven, more crunchy, more everything. Same thing for my intro guitars. My intro guitars here, you see, they're just normal, but if I go to the end of the song where they come back, but this time they come back and they have to fight the rest of the mix. They're not playing by themselves anymore. They have to fight the rest of the mix. So what did I do? My pedal plugin here, I automated the treble, made them brighter in the end. So you see here, they're way brighter in the end than they are in the beginning. Let me just solo them. This is how they sound in the end. And this is how they sound in the beginning. A lot less bright. This song is full of these little tricks of automation. Again, I have reverb throws as I showed you in the vocals video. And my main tip for you guys, if you're just starting with automation and you want to make sure that your choruses are going to be bigger than the rest of your song, you can automate your master. Look at that. And that's why I have this utility plugin in the beginning of my chain, not in the end this time, in the beginning of my chain in the master. Why in the beginning of my chain? Because I'm doing volume automation. So if I click on the gain here, you see, every chorus, I pull the whole volume of my whole track up. I could do this at the end here, just before this limiter, but why do I do it in the beginning? Because that way, in every chorus, my song is going to be fed to all of these plugins a little bit harder. My compressor is going to work harder. My limiters are going to work harder. My drive is going to be drivier. So everything is going to get more aggressive. The fact that everything is working just a little bit hard, again, don't go too crazy, because if you make everything work too hard, you're going to just make the plugins fail. They're just plugins, right? They're not miracle workers. But making this little boost in volume here, you see the song is at 0 dB everywhere else, and in the choruses it's 0.83, so not even 1 dB up. That makes everything a little bit more aggressive in the chorus, makes my compressor pump more, makes my drive be more aggressive. Everything sounds so much cooler. It makes my color limiter work harder and makes everything more colorful, I guess. And if you look here at the end, again, the chorus goes up to 0.83. And then at the very end, where everything goes crazy, like this is the time you have to grab your listener and be like, you're gonna wanna listen to this ending again. So to listen to this ending again, you're gonna have to go back to the beginning of the song and listen to this whole song again. So this is the last chorus. You have to go all out. So as we say it in Brazil, you put your dick on the table, you put your vagina on your forehead, and you go all out. So I raised the volume a little bit, 1.45 dB. Everything works harder, all the compressors, all the limiters, all the drive, and the last chorus is the biggest one, the most epic one. Pretty cool trick, right? So if you're just beginning with automation, play around with automating your master, because you're really gonna hear the difference and it's gonna be super fun. And that's it. We made it. We made it to the end of the series. This was a big series, wasn't it? This was a lot more hard work than I was thinking it would be. It was really fun though. I learned a lot. I hope you've learned a lot as well. And I hope you come back for the next one. Please let me know in the comments below, what song should I reverse engineer next? I'm really excited to see your guys' suggestions. Please support this channel. Please leave a comment below. Please leave a like, press the bell button, press, all the things out there in this world that help me. And also, if you want to support this channel, visit my website, juliangrim.com. You can buy my songs there. You can also buy private sessions with me so I can teach you Ableton personally on a Zoom call. If you live in London, we can do it presentially. But yeah, thank you so much for watching, and I see you all next time. Bye.
That's about the time she walked away from me. Nobody likes